Well, I was actually writing a paper in law school, and it was for an American legal history class. I was able to choose any topic for the paper, and I've always been interested in money. So I decided, well, what's the history of money and currency in American law? And ironically, I couldn't find anything in the academic literature as I was researching it. And towards the end, and I brought that to my professor's attention. He was both an attorney and a PhD in history, and he thought it was surprising that I couldn't find anything. And eventually, I was able to run into Pieces of Eight by Dr. Vieira, which the Gold Money Foundation has helped republish the book. And I found it extremely surprising that you would have a book like this and yet very little academic research. And so that was kind of the tumble down the rabbit hole, you could say. I like physical gold and silver coins, and I'm actually quite a big fan of the gold money system also, because I've followed what's been going on in the online gold space for years, and there have been problems with some of the companies in there, and gold money stands apart from all of them, which is one of the reasons why I think they have over $2 billion of value in the vault now. All of the bars are safe and accounted for, and there was a scare, a rumor about tungsten gold, tungsten bars that were plated gold. And so what did gold money do? They took every bar and they ultrasound tested it, and when they found anomalies, they melted them down. And so you know that your gold is gold in the gold money system. And I strongly endorse that system also because of all the corporate governance controls and things of that nature. I don't think they're actually rising very fast compared to the amount of fiat currency units that are being created. We have huge amounts of quantitative easing. We have large amounts of money printing and other forms of debt that are being created. And so really, when you look at the total amount of financial assets that are in the world financial system, and then the tiny, minuscule amount of gold and silver that exists, you would think that the price would be a lot higher than it is, which gets us to this GATA conference that we're at. I think they need to be a lot higher. In the short term, I think we'll see gold and silver run till they're about 1.35 to 1.4 times the 200-day moving average, so that'll probably put them around $1,800 an ounce. With silver, it'll probably run a little bit faster because it is a restless metal, so maybe 1.75 at the highest would put us around $50, $55 an ounce before the next correction comes. But as I was talking with James just a little bit earlier before our interview, we don't know what could come out of this latest round of sovereign debt crisis here in Europe, with Italy's CDS rates approaching their interest rates approaching 7% now, same with Spain. Who knows? We could see gold and silver run to very, very high levels, perhaps even 5-digit prices. And a lot of people in the main financial management world, they say, oh, well, there's not enough gold. Well, they're wrong. There is enough gold. It's just a function of price. And whoever runs to gold first will have the most of it. Yes, we've already seen the currency controls being implemented, and they're being ratcheted up. You've got Brazil. You've already got heavy currency controls in the United States. For example, if you want to take over $5 of pennies and nickels out of the country across the border to Mexico, you could be subject to jail time or a large $250,000 fine. That's a very heavy currency control that's already active and enforced in the United States. And who owns the pennies or the nickels? Because if you try to melt them down, you can also be subject to jail time or a large fine. So do you own the penny and the nickel, or does the government own the penny and the nickel? Because if you owned it, you should be able to do whatever you want with it, which would include melting it down. So obviously, we're seeing the government impose these currency controls already, and I think that they'll continue to ratchet up as they get more and more desperate. I'm very optimistic in the cause of human liberty. If you look throughout history, it's largely, we've had our missteps as we journey from the swamps to the stars, but overall, human liberty and freedom have been a good long-term bullish play. And so it's kind of asking, well, what about with the Gutenberg press? Well, sure, they could try to implement copyrights to keep people from speaking or things of that nature, but ultimately I think that as we move forward with these technological advances, they help advance the cause of liberty and freedom. China, they've got their own problems, perhaps greater than the West in a lot of ways. They've misallocated trillions of dollars of wealth, just like all the other governments and countries have. And yet the Chinese people, they're extremely entrepreneurial. And they've been able to get out and about. They've exchanged ideas with the West. They take those ideas back. They talk to their neighbors back there. And so the Chinese people, I think, they just are like everybody else. They want a better life. And when they've got people that are engaged in actively harming them and keeping them from having that better life, it leads to a lot of discontent. They had 50 million members of the Communist Party resign from the Communist Party on its 50th year anniversary. They are constantly having large-scale protests and other things of that nature. They had to send 25,000 troops out to the western part of China to quell some domestic dissent when some of the factories there were closing down. So China's got massive problems also, and they're no longer able to rely on the West for accumulating that wealth that they need in order to fund their large machines. So I think that the march of human liberty is definitely in the advance in the East. And it'll probably continue throughout the world as humanity has this new tool to use. Yeah, we're already seeing that. People, they gather together on the internet. That you've got these meetup groups for people with Boston Terriers or people who like yoga or all of these things. And for the most part, we're able to go about our daily lives with our neighbors who share interests that are nothing like ours, but now we have whole communities and areas springing up where people are able to gather physically. And so yes, I think that we're going to see the formation, a whole new way of organizing society, one that's not based on geography, the way the industrial age society was organized. With the internet, in many cases, we're closer to somebody in Tokyo than we are to our next door neighbor in terms of ideology. And so as long as we're able to find a way to peacefully coexist with each other by respecting basic fundamental tenets of property and liberty and life interests, then yeah, I think that we'll continue to see this reorganization happen of our entire society in all different ways.